What is up, everybody? Joseph here from Rad Parenting with my co-host,
Anea.
Anea, how are you?
I'm great.
Super excited about our show right now. We have a returning guest, Jennifer Waldburger. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much.
Got to thank you already because so many people listen to your show about getting their child to sleep. We're still going to give away the book, so that's still in the works. The contest is still going on.
Excellent.
But when you were in on this show, I shared with you that my son has been diagnosed with ADD, and that we were going back and forth we went through all the testing. And when I mentioned that in the air, a lot of people hit us up and said, wow, you know what? We feel our son or daughter may have that. We also feel that we don't know, is it something real? Is it not something real? Does everyone have it? Do I have it? My whole entire life.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure I have it. My dad told me when I told him, hey, my son Nate's been diagnosed with ADD. He goes, of course, I got it. You got it. It's a gift. He said that. It's a gift. That's the first thing he said. It's a gift, Joe. It's great.
What a great segue for today's
show.
So,
when I brought that up, and this is the best thing, Anea, about doing this show, all of a sudden this name, Derek O'Neill, is thrown into the mix, courtesy of Jen.
Had to call in the big guns on this subject.
Well, what was crazy was Derek's here, but it's weird for me to be in this room because I've read about you, watched the videos, and now suddenly Jen is like, he's in town. You're here for like a month in Los Angeles.
From Ireland. All the way. He's not like just over from Arizona.
Yeah, and I want to let you guys know we will have a transcription with this show because Derek's accent is pretty thick. I'm just going to tell you that right now. And we haven't been drinking Guinness, and no Jameson has been drunk or nothing. Welcome to the show, Derek O'Neill. Derek, how are you?
Thank you very much. I'm absolutely great. I'm here in Los Angeles instead of in the snows of Ireland or whatever rain is going on over there at the moment. And I'm about to talk on something that I am so passionate about. If people didn't have problems, I wouldn't bother living.
Yeah. Well, before we even start, Anea and I we're talking about this last night, as we do before every show. And I usually do the introductions. And of course, speaker, author, humanitarian, all comes to light when I think of you. But Anea asked a really quick question. She's like, hey, how do you call the work? What is the work that you do? And we literally started talking about that. So I almost feel like, what box can you fit in? I know that it's tough for people. You're even saying your publicist is tough because there's so many different roads that you work down. Do you want to,
Absolutely. Well, you see, because we're going to talk about ADD and ADH and AB all the way to Z and all the other things that we're diagnosed with, I have a friend and a guy who's helping me, and his name is John Cropper in New York, and John was awarded 5 times the world's best marketing strategist. And when he met me, he was to meet me to help me put a label on myself.
Branding. We all talk about branding.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. And I absolutely blew all his circuits. So much so that he just said, I have met Yoda and there is no box and I don't know. And the great thing about that, of course, is the fact that what I would say is, it's time to stop putting people in boxes, and it's actually time to stop giving people titles. Why can't we just all be people? Why can't we all just be friends and humans and supporters of each other and compassionate beings? Because that's who we really are. So title-wise, a little bit that might be a bit of a shocker. I didn't have any formal schooling until I was 23 years of age. Okay, so in other words, I had only got maybe 2 months, 3 months formal schooling. I hated school. School and me didn't go together. I was born an energy child.
Can you explain what an energy child?
Okay, an energy child is somebody who was so switched on, as we're going to talk about children with ADD, and the gift of them being ADD, and the gift of autistic children, amongst other things, is that what I think is being misdiagnosed is that there are children who are so switched on energetically that if they're in an environment that is not set up with love, truth, peace, non-violence and right conduct, they're acting out of a negative space to try and counter.
I want you to say those 4 things again, because those are really powerful words.
Absolutely.
It's 5. It's truth, love, peace, non-violence, and right conduct. Yeah.
Did you like that? I was translating.
Yeah, you did translate right there.
But that's potent And in some ways, you hear them.
What a
and you
recipe
go,
right there.
Yeah, but you hear them. And you go, well, yeah, but really, like if we really stop as parents and say, am I committed every day now that I've brought this child into my world, and hopefully for ourselves, to creating these 5 elements in my home every day, that this is what I'm bringing my child into? How many of us could say yes? If we were really honest,
I think the honest part is that I believe that every child ever born onto the planet has those 5 traits inherent within their being, and then we get them and destroy them. And we destroy them because we have been wounded and we haven't got past our own wounds, and we pass those wounds on to our children in the form of our attitudes and aptitudes and belief that if somebody hasn't got a degree, that they're not intelligent or something. Whilst, I sit here as somebody, as I said, I didn't go to school until I was 23. I only went to school at 23 to train as a psychotherapist to see if I was mad. And I discovered not only was I not mad, but I was absolutely spot on about how to read energy.
So, okay, so let's just take this back a little bit and talk first about these labels, because there's lots of parents that are listening right now that either are suspecting because they've heard other, parents talk about, well, my kid was just diagnosed with ADD. And just to put numbers into perspective, 11% of children in the United States are currently diagnosed with ADHD or ADD, which is staggering. And that is up from 7.8% in 2003.
And the difference from what I know is, as someone that's kind of dove into that world, is with ADD, it's attention deficit disorder, and then ADHD has the hyperactivity involved. My son has the ADD and the ability that what's super hard for him is doing anything with any kind of steps. So the reason it was brought to our attention was because of work with math, reading a story, and then at the end understanding the story, but not maybe understanding all of the characters. You asked me something right away, or you said something to me, Derek, when we were talking about it off mic. You said, I bet you he's super talented and creative. Yes. And I'll tell you this right now. From the time he was born, music has just come out of this child. And I'm a musician, but I am nothing. It definitely skipped
like Nate
a
hears a song and can sit down at the piano and
he never watched.
It.
He never. What was it the other day? He Tom Petty.
Yes.
Free Falling. He's sitting in the car. I remember as a kid, he's sitting in the car and I go, oh yeah, man, Tom Petty, check it out, dude. And I turn it up and then I came in the house, didn't really think about it, and then I'm making something to eat, and all of a sudden I hear him singing the song, all the lyrics, and playing the music. I'm like, oh, are you learning off the computer? He goes, no, I just learned it. So when you said that, I definitely was like, okay.
So this is awesome that we have Nate as kind of an example here to come back to. But so what I hear you saying is that there's some risk that when we, on one hand, as parents, we want to be like, well, yeah, if there's this thing with my kid, I want to understand it. But when those labels become limiting, we run into trouble. So are we saying that the ADD or ADHD is just limiting, or are we saying that potentially it is also incorrect, that it is just not a true reflection of what is going on with these kids?
That's a fabulous question. So as somebody who has gone through it, and I now get calls from some of the most powerful people on the planet, as well as celebrities, to help them with their issues. I think I'm qualified as a non-doctor, as a non-medical practitioner, to say I believe that it's overdiagnosed, and as a good Irish mother might say, it's just the difference between some kids being hyper with loads of energy and then a quiet child, and some children just being bold. And testing the boundaries, right? And other kids who are just, capable of learning whilst they sleep, whilst the other person has to slog all the way to achieve some sort of decent grade in school.
Right.
Can I ask you a question, Derek? Because it's been on my mind from the moment you brought the energy child comes into the world.
Yes.
And if those 5 ingredients that Anea said are not present, what is there a push and pull between the energy child and those characteristics not being in their life? Can you describe that a little bit?
Absolutely. And off air we were talking about it, and I think this is where the time for it to come in. If you want to test to see if your child is actually a genius, a creative genius who has been diagnosed with one of these initials that they like
The
to be
ADD,
given, all of the
ADHD, whatever.
initials, right? I now call it the A to Z because they seem to be making them up as they go along. You know, the more confused they get, the more confused the initials are becoming, right? And so here's the test for any parent to test your child. And you should see a reaction within 15 minutes of doing this test with your child to see if your child is radiating at a very high consciousness, genius, creative level. Okay. It's based on the environment. Okay. What we're now learning from biologists and whatever, we're learning that the environment is more important than anything we do within the environment. Okay? And so, what is the environment? The environment is the home. Okay? When the child is in uterus, they're in your apartment.
Yes.
Okay? Now, scientists are now telling us that they have located what they call the psychic gene. This is the gene between the mother and the child. Now, this gene is the gene where even when that child is 16 or 17 years of age, the mother just shoots awake one night and goes, something's not right, only to visit the room to find that the child hasn't come home. Okay? The psychic gene. Hey, let's call it energy just
That
for a
happens
moment.
all the time to me, by the way.
Okay, because the greater connection we have with our children on that level, the clearer, the more loving, the more open, the more less restrictive, then this is what happens, right? Okay, so we... you know the 5 things I talked about, right? So let's take truth as
Truth,
one,
okay.
okay? Now, we tell our children to tell the truth, okay? And then something like this happens in your home, okay? So the wife and the husband is sitting there and the child is playing, okay? And the phone rings. And the wife looks over as the husband answers the phone and the husband gives a look across the room to say, oh, it's that person. And the wife is going, I'm not here. I'm not here. Now, that child, if you test this today, I guarantee you that that child will go from a state of play to a state of crisis within 15 minutes. Because what they will have picked up is the energy of untruth.
Yes.
And they will bring that through the lineage of what we call ahimsa. Ahimsa is violence. Okay? Whilst, you know, it's non-violence, right
Yes.
conduct. So there you are, the parent, and you've completely annihilated the 5 values out of the child's world. And the child who is energetic is going, what is this?
They're short-circuiting.
And they're short-circuiting,
Yep.
right? Now, on top of the fact that you've just arrived home after having a bit of a, if I could say the word pissy day, okay? And you've walked into your home completely contaminated with negative energy, with business energy, whatever. You have not did a clearing, which is something I tell parents, it's vitally important to do. When you arrive home to your sacred space known as your home,
Yep.
you must create what the neuro-linguistic programmers would call an anchor.
Okay.
And that anchor, for me, say, for instance, when I began in private practice for psychotherapy and then returning home to my children,
Yes.
was I would take off my tie. Right?
So
And
just this ritual
just the
action.
ritual would now clear me
Right.
of I am now dad.
Yep.
I'm not psychotherapist.
Yes.
I am dad. And so many people go and don't apply that. And then they're wondering why the 5 values are falling down.
So
if
they're
you wanna-
bringing the baggage home.
Absolutely.
Of all that energy that this has globbed onto them during their day.
Absolutely.
And into the home where this hypersensitive child.
Yes.
Hypersensitive simply because they're a child. I would say
Absolutely.
they're closest to source.
Yes.
And so they're just vibrating with this beautiful energy
Yes.
and they feel it magnified.
Yes.
probably.
Also, the point of just the connection between the mother and the father and the child. There's that spiritual connection and that psychic
Yes.
connection that you're talking about. When the mother goes in, the child's not in the bedroom. That connection. I can say in our own household, I've often thought. Sometimes we'll wake up in the morning, the kids are literally asleep. Maybe my wife and I are downstairs. starting our day, the talk of money, bills, all starts to come up. They're not even awake. We kind of start going at it a little bit. And I've even believed sometimes they'll come downstairs and they're already in an agitated, bad mood. And I'll look at my wife and I go, if you don't believe that we're all connected, check that out.
You said that before.
Yeah, I've literally felt that. And seen they were asleep. On the other hand, when in the morning, the coffee and not the talk of money or not the talk of the trials and tribulations of the day, just a morning where we're all kind of on the same page, I see them come down with smiles on their faces, ready to go and join the day.
That is a really, really powerful observation. Well done for observing that within your family structure, because that is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you use the word asleep, keep something in mind, okay? You never sleep. Your conscious mind does, but your unconscious mind is fully awake. Otherwise, you would be dead. What's breathing you? What's pumping your heart? What's keeping you alive? This unconscious part, or source, or God, right? Now, again, what's brilliant that's happening in our world right now is that science and religion and spirituality particularly is really beginning to merge and come together. So the scientists are starting to back up that the yogis on the mountain who look like mad crazy people weren't so crazy after all. A matter of fact, some of the greatest yogis on the planet would be highly stressed because they'd either be called psychotic, ADDDDH and all the way to Z, because they are completely in an unconscious, conscious, creative state, because they have found who they are. They know exactly what their essence of beauty is, and they are bringing that to the world through all their actions. And that's what we should be helping our children to do.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I look at even, having the background that I do and looking at a time when we were very, let's say, goddess-centric, focused on the feminine, and then we've swung on the other end of the pendulum to be very, very masculine-focused, right? And I think that that's also been the difference between moving to a very sort of circular, cyclical way of experiencing the world to an extremely linear way of seeing the world. And now we see the beauty of the two coming together and this really powerful, incredible time to be alive. But we have to catch up with it with our kids, because if we want to keep doing this linear, everything's got to be put in boxes, everything has to have a label, then we are limiting the potential for them to discover who they are and these incredible gifts that they bring into the world. And then put on top of that an ADD diagnosis that is followed up by meds that is numbing our children. I'm going out on a limb now and just fully putting my opinions on the table here. But yeah, I just think that if more parents knew, if more parents had access to these other ways of viewing this whole topic, which is why we have you here today, and I'm so excited, that I think that at the very least they would say, okay, I want to make an informed decision.
I want to dive right into the question of let's use my own example with my son. Okay, so he's been going to a very progressive school. Nothing at all comes to mind that we're grateful for the school he's going to. I just wanted to say that because they've been great people. He's had an issue. Or I don't want to say an issue. Maybe I'm using the wrong terms.
No,
but I'm just
if that's what comes up, then it's true for you.
I'm going to throw it out on the table the way
he's been challenged by.
Here you go. Yeah,
challenged
perfect. Thank you, Anea.
Yeah.
God, I love Anea. Co-host right there. Boom. So we've been going through this. It started in about 5th grade. Everything socially, everything else in his life is amazing. He comes to me, Dad, I just don't understand this. I've tried to get the math. I don't understand. Why is this? Having problem or having hurdles with things in his in studying, even certain elements that his friends have already conquered in math. And he feels behind. The thing that's been tough too, he's a big guy. For 12 years old, he's as tall as you.
Right.
And he doesn't like that. But he's socially in there doing the sports, doing everything, playing the music, everything like this. But when it comes to the classroom, he just can't unless it's one-on-one. And we literally have a tutor that sits down with him every other day that has ADD, that grew up with this, and she's went to college, and she's like, look, we got this, Nate. We're going to do this together. But he has to have a one-on-one person explain, hey, man, let's do multiplication. We're doing fractions. Now, I'll tell you right now, as his dad, it is so hard to watch him go through all of that, because I went through the same thing as a kid, and I'll throw it out on the table right now. The only difference was, and I don't know where I have this from, I was very good at photographic memory. So I took plenty of tests that I wrote down all the correct answers, not knowing anything.
Not really understanding any of it.
Not really understanding. Not understanding.
Yes.
Not understanding at all. And people are like, oh, wow, you understand it. And all I cared about was, I just want to go play shows with my band. Do I get to do that? Okay, I'm out of here.
Yes.
He doesn't have that.
Okay.
So where we're at right now, we did the testing. Spent a ton of money doing that. Now he has the ADD. We're going back and forth. Someone has thrown out, hey, if you gave him a little medication, I think that would really just, maybe he does it during the week. And for my wife and I, and for any parents that are going down that road, just my personal thing, I'm like, oh my, I don't want to play. I don't want to get into that right now. So the first thing, when Jen mentioned you, my question is, he's got to go to school. He wants to, be who he's going to be. How do we start going down this road?
Well, I'm going to pop this over to Jen for a moment when I answer this question, for her to bring us through the lineage of the Calm Mammy Happy Baby book, right?
Okay.
Because, again, let's start at the beginning and bring it to the end so that people have the lineage, okay? First and foremost, the education system is broke. The money system is broke. The health system is broke. Why? Because we made the divine feminine a prostitute. Okay? Whilst the divine...
Can you say that one more time?
We made the divine feminine a prostitute.
Okay.
Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. But if you want to bother your eyeball checking it out, you'll find that she came from royalty. Okay? So, why did man take this beautiful creative energy and batter it to death? Because man is aggressive and fearful, whilst woman is nurturing and caring. So your son and all children, specifically under the age of maybe 21-ish on our planet now, have far, far more feminine energy about them than we ever did. And I've had, in private practice, I have had hundreds of children, hundreds of kids, 16, 17, 18, 19 years of age, and all wanting to commit suicide, specifically males, because they think they're gay or bisexual or something, and they're not. Actually, what they are is, I created a word, I call it, bi-feminine. Okay? They are much more creative. I believe science is going to start giving us answers very soon, because it's okay to say that medicine and the medical community made a mistake. And I think they made a mistake the day they used words like junk DNA. As if Source ever made anything that was junk
DNA?
Junk DNA. That's
In
what
context?
They call the DNA that they don't understand junk DNA.
Wow.
As if Source would ever make anything junk, right? Okay, so at the moment of creation, and this is where the Calm Mammy Happy Baby stuff comes in, right? At that moment of creation, everything is available to that child. As I said, we're the ones that take the child and break the child with our stupidity, our wounds, our unlearnings, all of that sort of stuff, right? And so, once we put the divine feminine back into the place of where it belongs, we will end up in a situation in this world where we will be nurtured by creative, secular thinking. Not linear thinking, because again, scientists will tell you, our brain, they can map it much better than it. We can't learn in straight lines. Nothing in nature is in straight lines.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So we can't do it. So when a child is born and is full of this creative juice, I believe that there are DNA strands opening now that are source controlled, that we as a planet are wakening up to this higher truth now, that man has made mistakes. And, we need the Divine Mother to come and hug us and say it's okay.
Which is a challenge, given that, I mean, the patriarchal paradigm is so powerful across most of the planet right now, meaning that all things feminine associated with being feminine are defined as weak. Therefore, you have these young men that say, well, if I have these qualities, according to my society, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah, so we need to start putting out the message that these are actually strengths and that they will give you access. And so over to you, Jen. Talk about, why we, came together to write the book, Calm Mammy, Happy Baby, because we wanted to address this from its source.
Yes.
So I work with a lot of parents. I wear, the sleep hat, which we talked about last time I was here, but I also have always facilitated groups for new moms and second-time moms and done a lot of private sessions as well. And to my heartbreak, in doing this for 20 years, the number one sort of mama mantra that I would hear, I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong. I'm failing my child. I'm missing something. I can't figure this out. Why can't I figure this out? The amount of negativity that poor mom is getting from the whole world from the time you become pregnant, even before that.
Yes.
The projection, the opinions. Don't do it like this. You're going to totally screw up your kid. You better make sure you do it like that. And that's how you'll guarantee that they'll be fine.
Even medicalizing pregnancy to the point of, you go into a hospital as if something is wrong with you, not the most natural thing that we can most of us potentially as women can do. We're told from the beginning that we probably can't do that on our own.
Absolutely.
We need these medical interventions.
Pregnancy and parenthood are described as things to survive. And we've completely lost touch with that. As Derek has said, the divine feminine, you're never more in connection and communion with the divine than when you're expecting a baby. I mean, that's a time of total empowerment for a woman. And so slowly, little by little, we're seeing a bit more of a return to this consciousness. But so, a big part of our motivation for writing this book was to, like Derek said, go back to the beginning and say, well, how did we get here? How did we get to a place of such disconnection for both parents? Because, when Derek's talking about masculine and feminine, it's not only about gender, it's about energy, again. So it's about, all of us, whatever gender we are, balancing the masculine and feminine in our beings and understanding that we all have this very deep, intuitive way of connecting with kids because we were that kid. We can remember being that kid who felt misunderstood, different from other people. And we did a sort of a reverse Russian dolls, right? We made ourselves smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller to satisfy the adults in our environment at home, even though our parents did the best they could, and in schools and in other settings. And we put ourselves in these tiny boxes. And so we can remember the pain of feeling misunderstood ourselves, mislabeled ourselves. And we developed a lot of very unhealthy coping mechanisms to survive, that kind of existence. And so this generation, God bless them, the kids coming through now, they're not getting in the box. They won't go in the box. And so that medical community is kind of like, well, how about we put them, under this medication? How about we, again, sort of classify it? And that's why it's not working, because they're just bristling against that. But so, I think the other thing that we sort of haven't touched on that should be mentioned is what's really hard as a parent is, for better and worse, that child in front of you is a portal back in time to your own childhood. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the energy balance and imbalance that you experience, a lot of it's unconscious. You can't help it because you're just cracked open no matter how hard you worked on yourself. Your child is going to reopen old wounds for you. And here you are, supposed to be the parent, supposed to be able to take care of them and know how, to be that parent. And yet you often feel like a child yourself because your stuff is up. And so part of what we really wanted to do in the book was to not only make that, normalized and understood and okay, and let's have some kindness and compassion for our parents who are experiencing this. But now what do we do with that? How can I, the parent, balance my energy to create an environment that is not only, helps me feel settled, not that I, the parent, am going to automatically know every single thing to do, but to be comfortable in the not knowing and to be able to meet the moment with the spontaneity and the intuition and the wisdom that can come through when we're still and quiet.
We've been educated away from our children. There are way too many experts now.
Yeah.
And I am not one. And a very valid point that you brought up is parents listening to this show should understand that they are doing the best they have and with the resources they have. They're doing the best they can with the resources that they have, right? But I would challenge any parent out there listening to this, specifically the fathers, to read the book Calm Mammy, Happy Baby, because it's so cleverly wrote that what it does is it triggers your own shit.
Yes.
And what it does is whilst you're reading it, you're going into this porthole, as Jen says, where you're looking back at your own childhood and going, oh yeah, that's why and how.
Yes.
And many a male dad who has actually read the book has come back and said, that's a very, very frightening book.
But back to what we were saying a moment ago, part of the reason that would be frightening, I mean, I think it's for moms too. I first recognized this, not even, I'd like to say it was in myself, but working with adolescent girls, having their moms nearby saying, how can I help? How can I support? And then them slowly starting to tell me about how their own adolescent girl stuff was coming to the surface, watching their daughters go through this. But in terms of the father looking at this stuff, men who are told in our society that they are not ever supposed to show vulnerability, how do they come to the table and say, okay, it's really rocking me to be a father and have my own childhood stuff that makes me feel scared and weak.
Well, it's those triggers that you have as a father or as a mother. I have my triggers. We've talked about it on the show. Like one of my, whether the school stuff doesn't really hit me so hard with my son because I'm like, hey, you know what? But I would say one of the, I think as a father, you have your different triggers. Like, what will other parents say? Like, I just went through a whole weekend where we were having something going on at home, and the issue that was going on, it was a little thing, but it was turning into a small little fire, and it was going to start affecting our other parents. What are they going to say? What is so-and-so going to say if they find out that this happened? And I finally said to Karen, I don't care what any of those other parents say. This is called parenting, and if they've got a problem with it, that's cool, because we're all in the same school together, and you know what? Sorry, it's not perfect all the time. So-and-so said something, and that's not cool, but we got to all figure it out. But I'm not going to worry about getting stink eye from them at drop-off. If they want to talk to me about it, then we will talk about it. I have no problem addressing that. My wife and Karen goes, wow, you're so right. Like, it's like we're all in it together. But you know how it is? Some parents are like,
yes,
it's a
we
trigger
love
of yours.
Children,
it's your
and we
ego.
want to keep them supported, right? And not having too much of a whack at the education system, but like I sit here as somebody, as I said, I only went to school when I was 23, but I now have 180 degrees. Yes, and that's the ability to turn around and tell somebody to piss off.
Wow.
Yes.
When I don't.
180 degrees.
Yeah, but not degrees as in educational degrees. Yeah. The ability to turn around and say, this environment is not for me.
From where you were and flip
this
it all
is not
around.
who I am.
And to become your fullest self.
100%.
I think if we reframe, like, here's my goal as a parent, is to help my child, to give them the tools, to give them the space, to give them the love and support to become the most full version of themselves, the truest version of themselves, instead of what we have been doing now for generations. And speaking, the school system being a prime example, we've said before on the show, the current public school system came out of the Industrial Revolution with the primary objective being creating an obedient workforce. That is, does not make sense anymore in terms of us, if we want to really be talking about creating a democracy, creating individuals who are thinking, feeling, walking unique paths and being their fullest selves. That is completely contrary to our current school system, and so we need to create change.
It comes from the word discipline, and children need discipline because that's what keeps them safe. As I like to say, it's vitally important to give them enough bubble that they can expand into but not fall into danger, right?
Yes.
And so you have to look at the word discipline and realise that the word comes from the word disciple. And disciple means to follow the highest path you can, to be fully who you are,
beautiful.
to stand powerfully in your own truth and say, I validate your truth, it is not my truth, and I wish us both well on our journey because we're both arriving at the same place anyway.
And we will all be better. Like, this is the thing. We were talking briefly about Michael Mead's work, before we started this, but this whole idea of every soul coming in with this unique gift. And the benefit for all of us is if we were all good at the same thing. And this is really what we've done in terms of creating standards that say, well, if a child performs this well on this particular test, that makes him or her a genius. And if not, then not so much. Junk DNA.
Yes. Junk
Right?
DNA.
Junk DNA, yeah, new term. You know what I got to go back for? I started laughing to myself because when you said 180 degrees, I've been listening to you because your accent sometimes I don't want to lose it. I was like, whoa, he's got 180 degrees, and then you said no, Joe. I love the fact that I took that literal for the second. So some of the listeners were like, Joe, he doesn't have 180 degrees. That's a metaphor. And I'm like, I just want you guys to know I caught that later on. Anyway, sorry. You'll run into me and be like, God, man, that guy's not that bright. Check it out. So we're gonna go. I could have you on the show, and you'll come back again and hang out with us, right? Absolutely. I got to dive right into this right now because I know a lot of the listeners dove in because they saw the term, ADD, ADHD. Okay, so let's dive into my situation. We're going to use my family as an example. 12-year-old. He's getting ready to go into junior high. We're having these hurdles we have the independent tutor.
Maybe, Joe, describe some of the things that you saw our teachers were seeing in Nate, because these are things that parents are going to hear and go, Derek, that's my kid.
What I told Derek and all you guys in the room was everything is great socially, everything on that front is great. It's just when it comes to math, and my wife actually, just so that we can use this term, because auditory processing, that's his whole thing. Whenever it comes to any type of steps or anything that he has to do in that manner, he can't remember the steps. If you ask him to do chores, you got to write it down. It has to be written down. Like, hey, Nate, I need to take out the garbage. I could say to him from noon till 3 p.m., Nate, I'm going to do it. I'm taking out the garbage. And then he grabs it, and it gets to the front door. And then he sees something. Oh, I'm going to do this.
Squirrel.
Or not even that. He just starts playing the piano. And then I go, hey, bud, can we get this outside? Oh, yeah, I got it. And then it gets to the gate. And then he'll say, what was I supposed to do with it? And I go, buddy, we need to get it. And then it gets done. Now, Nate, if you ever listen to this, sorry if I'm stretching it a little far, but it's the steps, reading, following through with anything to do with remembering something in the sense of, hey, I read the whole story, But when it comes to his music, when it comes to, he makes these videos, he directs these little videos, he makes movies with his friends. They come over on the weekend, hey, Dad, can I borrow your phone? Yeah. He gives it back to me with this 15-minute story that's been edited and and I'm not saying.
I love when parents answer their own questions. You've just answered.
Did I really?
You've answered your own question.
But what do I do right now with school in the sense of he's got to.
But forget school for a moment.
Okay.
We should be, as parents, rearing our children to be happy, not to be educated, to be happy.
Say that again.
Not to be educated, to be happy.
Well, that's a tattoo.
Right? Because if a child is happy, and as somebody who took training as a psychotherapist, when you're in a state of happiness, your unconscious mind opens up and it absorbs something like 1.7 million pieces of information a second, compared to the conscious linear mind of which we're asked to learn by and talk by, which takes in 7 plus 2 or minus 2. So when we have happy children, we have creative children. And when we have creative children, not only are they taking in everything that they're being taught, but they will then utilise that when needed. But let's understand something. Education now is not so much the books anymore. We now have computers that are doing everything for us. And you've just described what is probably, the next Simon Cowell of the industry in your son, right? He has an interest in production. He has an interest in music. He has an ear for it, if you want to call it such a thing. And I guarantee you when he's in that space, he's genius and happy. Now, do you know something? What is success? I think that's the question needs to be asked. What is success? And how do you measure success? Well, I measure success by how many times I smile in a day. I measure success in how many lives I touch in a positive way in a day. That's how I measure my success.
Jen, did you want to jump in on that? That's
yeah,
a big question. I love it.
I had a light bulb, and the light bulb is he's got auditory processing disorder, I put in quotes, from the external world, but his inner ear could not be more
Sharper.
finely tuned.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
and what a difference will it make? I was just having a conversation with somebody this morning who talked about how much difference it made in his life when he perceived like he had this confidence about what he could do, and then he had a moment, an experience that changed that caused him to question. And from that moment forward, it started to impact negatively how he performed various tasks. So if currently what Nate is hearing repeatedly is you're not performing like everybody else, you're not like everybody else, that he's taking that in as there's something wrong with me. If Nate knew, look
It's
what's
positive.
right with me.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, now
Look
he's
at the
now
genius inside
I
me.
would say because with my wife and I, we definitely it hasn't been on our end. Something's wrong with you because from when you first sat down in here, Derek, I mentioned that I said to my dad about 2 years ago, "Hey, Nate got diagnosed with ADD," which I hate even using that word "diagnosed" because that's so associated with like.
And it's going to be important, if I may hold you just for a moment, and anybody listen to this program. What keeps something in manifested form is the most powerful consciousness that projects it. And the fact is our parents are our gods and their heroes and everything. So if you as a parent have on any level of your belief system that there is something wrong with your child, then that child will continue to manifest in that wrong state.
Yes.
So parents, it's time to look at your beautiful creation and go, God has created God in its most perfect form, and God is finding itself back to God in the role chosen by that singular being. And I like to sum it up in what I call a metaphor, right? This is I love sort of upsetting people a little bit with this, but it's not actually upsetting, it's actually really good. It's like when I meet people, I love saying to them, look, this is how important you are in the world, right? You are the most massive beach in Hawaii, white sandy beach in Hawaii. That's how important you are to the eco-environmental system. Now, this is how unimportant you are. You're only a single grain on that beach, right? And then I hold there for a moment whilst they swallow, and then I wait for the swallow, and then I say, but let me tell you that the beach is not complete without you being on it.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So with the
Beautiful.
absolute disconnection, like my belief system is a simple. I believe that one day, if you want to say it in such a way, one day God had a thought, okay? And the thought was, I'm going to separate myself from myself so I can love myself more.
Whew.
And we were created. And now we've played in the playground. We live on the most beautiful blue, beautiful planet if we don't destroy it.
Yes.
But, now even that mantra has changed, because what God is doing now is he's going, game over, guys. I'm now calling all aspects of myself back. And whilst doing so, you as humanity are going to go through some of the darkest times, because the Kali Yuga, as the Hindus like to call it, is ending. And
What is that?
The Kali Yuga is the dark years of ignorance, right? It's where humanity has challenged the source, and the source is now going to come back.
it feels a little bit like it's the night is darkest right before dawn.
Correct. And
You're out of the fog, Anea.
I
Yeah.
am.
You came out of the fog.
Yeah, and
Wow.
that's the positive thing. Like, I mean, no matter the craziness that we're looking at, what's going on in the world at the moment, believe me when I tell you that it's just another birthing. We are birthing beauty back onto the planet because we have to survive.
We are birthing beauty back onto the planet. Wow.
Wow, what a show. Derek, thank you so much for coming in. Jen, I got to thank
Wait.
you again.
Yeah, and we need to talk about, because I'm like signed up before Derek leaves.
Oh, yeah.
for the
Okay,
retreat in Ireland.
That's really quick. Okay, yeah. Because
we need to mention that.
I was going to say, when I was cruising around, first of all, before you split, if anyone wants to check out anything with Derek O'Neill, you can go to your website.
Yes, DerekO'Neill.com, spelt with Neill.
Okay. Double L, Derek O'Neill, and you can go there. You can find out about everything we've talked
Yes.
about. There's a great video on there that shows you in doing your thing, speaking to people. I love that. It has all the events that you're doing. You're going to be in LA for about a month. So hopefully.
Are you doing events while you're
I'm
here?
doing a workshop, an open workshop on the 14th of November, which you'll see. Oh, not the 14th, the 13th of November.
13th of November.
Here in LA.
Okay.
That if anybody's
So
interested.
if you
What
guys
is
want
it?
to, if you guys want to get details for that, you can go to Derek O'Neill
DerekO'Neill.com.
with 2 L's.com.
and what is the topic of the workshop or the focus of the workshop?
The topic is wake up.
Wait, love it. And Jen, you wanted to add something.
2 quick things. First of all, our book title is called Mama Happy Baby, but it applies to parents of kids of any age.
Okay.
Second of
That's
all,
important to say.
Yeah.
Because when I got it, I was like, I don't need to read this.
Yes.
And then after hearing what you just said, I'm like, I got to read this.
there's a baby on the cover, and that's because, like Derek said, we take you back to the beginning so you
Yes.
can see the
Got
whole
it.
trajectory of how
Got
it
it.
started. But the other really important thing is, I think that, there must be a lot of parents listening today who say, wow, this has been amazing, 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 but what do I do?
Yes.
And so Derek and I, are dedicated in our service to helping anyone who needs help going, okay, here's where I'm stuck. Here's where my energy isn't balanced. And that's why Derek offers workshops and has many other books and other tools and things. And I do my work as well. But that's the whole point of our
Can they reach out
practice.
directly to you right now? Someone's listening right now, like, hey, I just heard about you guys, Jen, you for the second time, Derek for the first time. How can they reach out and say, this is where I'm at right now? This is the point I'm at right now in my life. Can they email you directly?
Yes. My website is sleepyplanet.com. Even though it has the word sleep in it, there's all kinds of other services and Derek's website as well. So.
Great.
And if there was something, like if we want to send our listeners away with, 1 or 2 things that they could do immediately,
Yes.
what
Okay.
would they be?
Very simple. Take a deep breath before you talk to your child. Right? And when you're talking to your child, stop looking at them as a child. You have an enlightened being there that has come here to heal your wounds,
Beautiful.
not the other way around.
Beautiful.
Man, wish I would have started this podcast 10 years ago.
Ooh, it's a good one.
Right now. God, my kids, I'm going to be a great grandfather. I'm
Yeah,
going
you
to
are.
crush it. I'm going to crush
I think generally people are better grandparents
Look,
than they are parents.
I can guarantee you on that.
I know I make a joke about that, but as you guys all know, and everyone listening to the show right now, and our listeners know, we always say that, and Anea taught me this, that you can always start these changes today. One of the things I love that you said so much, and I'm going to make it. I don't know what I'm going to do because I don't wear a tie. I wear black T-shirts. So maybe when you said you come home from work, you take off your tie. Maybe I'm going to take off my shirt and just be like, I'm dad here with my shirt off. I don't know. That would be kind of weird. Maybe kind
You
of.
don't even have, you could just pull your earlobe.
Pull my earlobe.
It's just an
Yes.
anchor
Yeah.
that you are making
But I
a
love
conscious
that.
decision to switch from
Crossing
your
a
working
threshold.
to your
drop into
parent
being a
mode.
dad.
Yes.
To drop
100%.
in.
Yes.
There
Love
you
it.
go.
Well done,
Drop
drop in.
into being a parent. Everyone do that because we're so inundated. You got the AM radio on, the gosh, of course the election, that'll make you crazy, and then you're trying to pay the bills and you got to get the sitter, and then you got soccer practice, and you know what, when you get home you got to drop in. I have to do it, everyone in this room has to do it, so everyone drop in. Derek, thank you so much for being a part of
Thank
the
you
show.
very much,
You'll
John.
come back
Thank you.
again.
Oh, absolutely.
Anea's going to Ireland.
I am so
Are you
there.
really going?
I am
As
going.
I told you earlier on, I'm going to guarantee you'll never be the same again. You will awaken to who you are, or much closer to who you are, and your ability to be happy will be just blown
I can
off the
feel it in
charts.
my body just thinking about
How
doing it.
long?
I'm so
like
excited.
just a quick 411 for our listeners. Like, wow, I could actually go to Ireland and be a part of it. Like, give me just a breakdown of what
Okay.
it's like. I show up.
Effectively, you show up on a Sunday. You meet me on a Sunday night. I say hi and whatever. Then on a Monday, I completely destroy who you thought you were. Okay. In a workshop.
unraveling.
Yes,
In a workshop.
the unraveling.
Yep.
And that goes on from 10 o'clock till 5 o'clock in the evening. And then you just want to run off and go to bed. And then the next day I bring you off to one of the sacred sites in Ireland where we can absorb the beauty and the magic and the leprechauns of Ireland. Then the next day I bring you back and I test to make sure that you're okay and whatever. and we sort of start to re-piece back your higher self, more loving,
Yes.
more compassionate, happier self. And then on the Thursday, we bring you back out again for the mother herself, nature herself, to hug you and caress you. And you feel so new that on the Friday, when we do our last full day in the workshop, we redesign, or when I say we, because it's the collective, I hand you a paintbrush and I say, paint the life you now want for yourself. And we do that all day. And then on Saturday, we get drunk and fish and do with the leprechauns and celebrate life and be Irish. And then on Sunday, some people go home and some people stay. So that's
Wow.
what we do.
I've been. I can vouch.
Life changer? Game changer?
I mean, completely. It's funny because it's sort of like having a cup of tea with this funny, wise Irish friend of yours, and then all of a sudden you're completely pulled apart, and you're like, "What the heck
Turns
is
out
going
it's
on?"
mushroom tea.
But it's a Humpty Dumpty. Somehow by the end of it,
He puts you
you're
back
back
together.
but in a totally new way that feels so much more like who you are. Yeah.
I know there's a listener right now like me. It's like, I'm too scared to do that.
Oh, I'm there.
You are so there.
You have to
Are
be
you going to
ready.
go? Are you really going?
Absolutely.
You
All
have
right,
to be ready.
and I want you to do like a like one of those, like, I'm here in my room. I
Oh,
just got
okay.
torn apart, and like we'll put it all
just
together.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll
is that cool?
do it. Sure.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, thank you guys so much for listening to
you
Rad
very
Parenting.
much.
It's been amazing having Derek and Jen here. You guys are the great. One more time with the book that all of us need to get.
Calm Mama, Happy Baby.
Calm Mama, Happy Baby. Check that out.
No matter how old your kids are.
No matter
We'll
how old.
do a
It's a
giveaway
read for
if you want.
everybody.
Okay, yeah, let's do. Yeah.
You want to do a giveaway?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
All right. If you want to win the book, all you got to do, we'll make it really, really simple. Go to our iTunes page, write a little review on this show, how much you liked it, how you're going to share it with your friends, and I'll pick a winner from there. Go to Rad Parenting on iTunes, write a review. It'll post. Take a screenshot of it, and then send it to radparenting@gmail.com. All right. I'm Joe Sib in the room with Derek and Jen, and of course, my co host, Anea. You guys ready?
Yeah.
On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Late.